Thailand moved up 13 places in the Reporters Without Borders Index, but the organization still views press freedom in the country as in a difficult situation. The report pointed to prosecutions under Thailand's Lese Majeste law. Lese Majeste is a French term that means injured monarchy. Thailand makes any unflattering mention against its king or royal family, no matter how indirect, a serious crime. A court in Bangkok just sentenced a journalist and political activist to 11 years in jail for offending Thailand's king in his magazine. Somyot Prueksakasemsuk's conviction is the latest in a string of successful prosecutions. And here now to tell us about them is blogger and journalist Saksith Saiyasombut, joins me via Skype from Bangkok. Thanks for joining us on LinkAsia.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what was Somyot convicted for actually doing?
It is important to note that Somyot, in this case, he was an editor of a magazine called Void of Thaksin, and what is incredible and also remarkable in this case is that this time he didn't write these articles himself that were deemed offensive. No, he was just an editor. He just edited these. So there were two articles that were more like stories or columns, and they included allusions and allusions to something. But only the court saw one solid interpretation what these allusions might be, and their interpretation is that these allude to the royal family. And what is also remarkable, if I might add, is that the contents of the article have not been made public or are not known public until the trial actually started, because mostly they are not discussed in the public domain, because otherwise, and here comes the catch-22, you might also be sued under this law.
Oh, interesting. So the public really had no notion of what had been said. Now, you were in the court. When the sentence was handed down, what was the reaction inside the court?
Obviously, there was shock and anger and very, very much a distraught atmosphere. And you also have to add that there were a lot of people in this courtroom, a lot of foreign journalists, and also a lot of representatives from Western embassies. And yes, of course, I mean, the reactions are distraught, and there was a lot of shock and anger amongst the supporters. Now, when you go outside the courtroom to get the reactions, it depends who you're talking about. As I said, we had the activists, but then also the Red Shirts, which is a political pressure group that is mostly in support of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra and has makes the large voter base of the current government of Prime Minister Shinawatra, which is ironically the sister of Thaksin. They have been largely absent during this trial. This is quite remarkable because since their leaders have been campaigning against Lese Majeste in the past heavily. And then on the other side of the argument, the ultra-royalists and the ultra-nationalists, they see nothing wrong with it, and they ferociously attack anybody, both domestic and internationally, who are trying to amend this Lese Majeste law, because they see it as their breath-giving duty to protect the monarchy from any threat at all costs, no matter if it's real or in most cases just imagined.
Well, it sounds like in this case, based on what you've said and based on what you heard in court, that things were alluded to, but no real direct criticisms of the king. What were some of the things that were alluded to?
See, that is the catch-22 here, because if I would if I would say them again and I would recreate everything that has been said in these articles, I might be as myself in danger of being sued under this law, because the law itself is written very ambiguously, and also the application of this law is also very flawed, because in the reality, anybody can sue anybody under this law, and the police and the authorities have to follow up any case, because otherwise they would be deemed not loyal to the monarchy, and this is the last thing that you want to do in this country.
You know, human rights campaigners say the law has been politicized. What do they mean by that?
Well, we have to look at the numbers, because before 2005 they were not even 50 cases per year, and then in the following years they were like 100 cases per year, and the numbers skyrocketed in 2010, where there were almost over 500 cases of Lese Majeste. And as I said earlier, it is very easy to sue anybody in this country based on Lese Majeste, and the authorities have to follow it up. And of course, it is a very convenient political tool to silence dissidents and other very inconvenient voices. But you also have to see the bigger picture of the state of this country and of the political state of this country. The political polarization that we have in this country is because of a fear of political uncertainty for the future of this country and also the monarchy. And so that's why the self-proclaimed defender of the crown are being more erratic and ferocious than ever before to preserve a Thailand that doesn't exist anymore or hasn't existed in the first place. And they also see any move to amend or even abolish this law as also a direct threat to the Lese Majeste law, while it is important to note that the criticism and discussing of the law itself is not illegal and should be pushed even further, because otherwise this country, in regards of freedom of speech, is taking a step backwards, while ironically countries like Myanmar are opening up even more and more.
So clearly, based on what you said, prosecutions have increased in recent years. Would you characterize this as a crackdown on freedom of speech? Not necessarily a crackdown, but more a reflection of the political mood here at the moment. I mean, but even though in this and last year, if the numbers are correct, the cases have been decreasing a little bit. But I would say it's not necessarily a crackdown, because otherwise there would be even a lot more people locked up. All right, very interesting. Thank you so much for your insights and for being with us. Thanks for having me. Saksith Saiyasombut writes the blog Siam Voices and is a freelance TV correspondent. You can learn more about him on our experts page.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.